With another rival set to step aside this week, we know Mitt Romney is the man to take on President Obama. But how's he going to win? Should he ignore the right of his party and move to the center to have any chance in November? You're watching Inside Story US 2012 from Washington. Hello, I'm Anand Naidu. This week, Newt Gingrich will become the latest Republican contender to call it a day. The former House Speaker is expected to suspend his campaign and endorse Mitt Romney, leaving Ron Paul as the former Massachusetts governor's only rival in the race for the Republican nomination. So as Mitt Romney moves into general election mode and focuses on President Obama, how's he going to secure a victory? Should he move to the center in an effort to win the votes of independents in key swing states? Or should he look to harness the enthusiasm of the Tea Party, which helped sweep Republicans to power in Congress in 2010? It would be fair to say that the right of the party doesn't seem overly excited about the man who will carry the Republican banner in November. Here's satirist Stephen Colbert's somewhat ambivalent endorsement of Romney.
We have finally achieved a national groundswell of Mitt-thusiasm. And we must unite behind one candidate so we can plummet toward victory in November. Now, is Mitt the best candidate? No. Is he the true conservative candidate? Nuh-uh. But he is the most candidate. And I believe with some of my heart that now, more than ever, someone should run. And it appears that Mitt is. Therefore, the next president of the United States must be... Anybody else jumping in? No? Did you check? Last chance. Okay. Mitt Romney. Woo! I settled for it!
A little earlier, I spoke to Joe Williams, White House reporter for the Politico website, and I asked him what happens next for Romney.
Romney still has to collect a number of delegates in state primaries going forward. He's about maybe 450, 500 short of the 1144 delegates needed for nomination. What that means is that the primaries will continue, but there will be very little campaigning, almost no contest. He's certain to win almost every one of them, and the Republican nomination will be his for the taking when he shows up in Tampa later on this summer.
And looking ahead to the general election, does he face something of a tactical dilemma? Does he move to the right to attract his party's base, perhaps the Tea Party supporters, or does he pivot to the center to attract independents, whom we know in many instances decide who goes to the White House?
Well, and there's the rub, because conventional wisdom seems to indicate that, and you can look at past campaigns to bear this out, even the one in 2008, the candidate in the primaries tends to try to speak to the base of the party. In this case, Mitt Romney tacked very hard to the right, dismissed a lot of the positions he held as a governor in Massachusetts, namely abortion, health care for all, and certain social issues that became very important to hear conservatives on his part of the party denounce. So he did that in many debates and in many campaigns. He said he was pro-life. He said he was against the health care system that President Obama created, even though the one in his state was a model. And he also said that he was very severely conservative, was the phrase that he used. That speaks to the base. It gets them excited and enthusiastic to go out and vote for him so he can win the primary. But the double-edged sword of that it contains a lot of sticky position points that he's going to have to refute, or at least find some way to calibrate in the general election. At the same time, he's going to have to fire up his base enthusiastically to get them to come out and support him in the general election too, which could turn off moderates. Very, very narrow path he has to walk here, very tricky. It's been done, but it's been done without a great deal of difficulty, not done without a great deal of difficulty.
Another problem that he faces, and we have seen this during this primary campaign, and that is, if I could put it this way, an enthusiasm deficit from his party. There's been a very lukewarm response from the, let's say, the sponsors, his sponsors to endorse him.
That's right, the far right, and a lot of the Republican Party these days, the far right has the most outsized voice. They're the ones who complain the loudest when things aren't going the way they think they should. You saw that play out during the election in which Newt Gingrich, Rick Santorum, even Ron Paul got their turns at the front of the pack. They were people who the conservative base felt had the bona fides, but in the end, Mitt Romney had the organization. Because they feel like Mitt Romney is not an authentic conservative, he's the red governor of a blue state, Massachusetts, if you will, and he did have a lot of these moderate positions that he had to discount to win the primary. That creates an enthusiasm and a trust deficit that, again, is another hurdle that he's going to have to overcome if he wants to win the White House in 2012.
So, should Mitt Romney fight the general election campaign from the center ground of politics? To discuss this, I'm joined by an all-Republican panel, including from Boston, Michael Graham, a talk radio host and Tea Party supporter who used to run the Anybody But Mitt website. In the studio, we've got Ford O'Connell, a political strategist who worked on John McCain's election campaign in 2008, and Rick Tyler, a former spokesman for Newt Gingrich, who has been advising the pro-Gingrich super PAC. Gentlemen, welcome to you all. Rick Tyler, let me start with you. We've got Newt Gingrich, who's about to step out of the race. He's going to get out. He brought a lot of colour to the campaign, if I could put it that way. Also a lot of controversy. What is the significance of him getting out?
Reality, I think. You know, there's not a way that he can get to the Tampa with enough delegates, and there wasn't enough at this point anti-Romney vote to continue on. I think Romney won the central election question here of the entire campaign, and that essentially boiled down to who can beat Barack Obama. That is the central question that Mitt Romney won in the end. And so as we saw everybody drop out, the vote, as it moved from one candidate to the next, when Rick Santorum dropped out, it did not again move back to Newt Gingrich. It in fact consolidated around Mitt Romney. So that was the reality that Gingrich faced.
Okay. One of the other things is that, I mean, it wasn't that long ago that Newt Gingrich was attacking Romney in the strongest possible terms. Let's take a listen to some of what he had to say.
Frankly, I do not believe that a Massachusetts moderate who created Romney Care as the forerunner of Obamacare is going to be in a position to win any debates this fall, and that's part of the reason I have insisted on staying in this race. We need someone who can go toe-to-toe with Barack Obama.
Okay, let's go to Michael Graham in Boston there. So how does the Republican Party reconcile these two very divergent views there, Michael?
We don't. Absolutely not. Everything Newt Gingrich said about Mitt Romney is 100% true. He will not be able to debate Obamacare. He will not be able to explain the difference. He will not stand by any principles. He will not go toe-to-toe. What he will do will be not Barack Obama. And he is the best not Barack Obama that's currently available. And that's why I think Rick made a good point, that as these different skills popped up, Newt Gingrich, the great debater, Rick Santorum, the true believer, Herman Cain, the exciting, telegenic guy, that Mitt Romney kept showing back up as the best no to Obama vote. And this election will be a referendum on Barack Obama.
Okay, Ford O'Connell, the not Barack Obama candidate.
Well, I think that's exactly right. And I think one of the big things that Mitt Romney has to be careful of is he cannot ignore the base. But at the same time, he must push to win over a portion of Hispanics, and he also must push to win over that sort of 7 to 12% of the independent swing vote. And the big thing for Mitt Romney is to stay true to his conservative principles, but also show that this is a referendum on President Obama's abysmal economic record. And if he does that, he can win this, but he has a very narrow electoral window to do it, and it really starts with winning Florida, Ohio, and Virginia. And if he can do that, he could very well be the next president of the United States.
Okay, here's the question.
I'm sorry. I have to interrupt. I have to interrupt anybody who uses the phrase Mitt Romney's conservative principles. Please name a Mitt Romney conservative principle. Mitt Romney has one principle, which is elect Mitt Romney. And he would announce tomorrow he was a lesbian if he thought that it would get him elected in 2012. And so this notion that he's going to pander to the right, pander to the left, absolutely not.
Is he more conservative than Barack Obama, yes or no? Is he more conservative than Barack Obama, yes or no?
There are members of the Politburo who are more conservative than Barack Obama. And that's what they do. All this talk about the far right, the package from Politico, twice as many Americans identify themselves as conservatives as liberals. The reason why the right will have no problem voting for Mitt Romney is that Barack Obama has chosen to govern from the 20% liberal fringe of the United States. That's why Mitt Romney is a good candidate to catch those rejection votes.
I absolutely agree with you, but he still has to make sure that the base is comfortable with him. And that's one of the things that the Tea Party's job is moving forward, is to make sure that you install conservative members in the House and the Senate Senate in this election cycle, because you really have to keep Mitt Romney on the straight and narrow, because we do have to move forward, because 4 more years of Barack Obama is just not an option.
Okay, Rick, let's just say, for the sake of argument, that Mitt Romney has true conservative principles. How does he reconcile those true conservative principles with the fact that he wants to win over Hispanics, other minorities, he wants to get independence?
Well, look, I think America is a center-right country. We are a conservative country. We don't see that in the media on a daily basis.
Absolutely.
But the problem is, the problem with Mitt Romney is, well, actually, both candidates have the same problem: their record. Okay, Mitt Romney's got his record in Massachusetts, which by no account is conservative on virtually every issue. Barack Obama has a problem with his record, which is we have unemployment. The question will be, and the problem, the challenge I see with Mitt Romney is every time Republicans win, with Ronald Reagan in 1980, 1984, the Republican Conservative Contract with America in 1994, and again in last year with 2010, which was the Tea Party, which was a response, by the way, to the Republican Party, not the Democratic Party. They were all excited about something. Our party never wins unless we're excited about something. I don't see that right now, as it is now, that Mitt Romney has gotten anybody excited. In fact, it seems that he has depressed the vote. He's taken the enthusiasm of the Republican Party and sort of choked the life out of it. The question is, are we going to have enough enthusiasm to turn out enough people? Because you need an overwhelming turnout for Republicans to win. We don't have the natural turnout machines that the left has, and without them, I don't know how we...
I absolutely agree with Rick on that one. He is right on the money, and that is a big concern for Republicans going into this presidential election, is the turnout, particularly in the non-battleground states. The left is very good at turning out voters, and Mitt Romney has to make the sell that keeps them to turn out and says, hey, I'm somebody who's going to improve your life as it is right now. And I think
so should he go for the Tea Party vote to build up enthusiasm?
He has a very sort of narrow tightrope to walk. He has to keep the Tea Party in mind, and he has to keep conservatives in mind, but he does also have to push into that sort of 7 to 12% of independents who are not sort of bought and sold but rented depending on the election. And right now, their number one concern is the pocketbook.
Right, Michael?
Mitt Romney will never draw Tea Party votes, ever. He could stand outside the polls with $100 bills. He's not going to do it. He spent the entire primary trashing the Tea Party. He's part of the 2008 Republican movement that the Tea Party is a rejection of. That's who he is. The guy who can draw Tea Party votes is one guy, Barack Obama. And if Barack Obama keeps waging this war on the notion of excelling, if he keeps attacking the idea of individual responsibility, which is the core of the Tea Party, individual responsibility, if he continues to be the bailout Obama president, he'll do that job. Mitt Romney should ignore the Tea Party because we're not going to believe a single damn word he says no matter what.
Okay. Ford, is there another role for the Tea Party in this election? Because, you know, we sometimes forget that there are also elections for the Senate and for the House as well.
There is. And it's sort of to be the conservative conscience of the Republican Party in Congress, because the Republican Party in Congress has lost its way. And we saw that in 2010 when the Tea Party put in new members, and their job really is to hold the party brand and the president's sort of feet to the fire to make the right choices.
But I've never seen Congress... candidates for Congress, either in the House or the Senate, you know, I've never seen a presidential candidate ride the coattails of the Congress. That just has never happened. Right. And so,
but once you're in there, is what I'm saying, is sort of keeping on the straight and narrow, because as President Obama's shown from day one, he wants a second term.
Romney is the top of the ticket. He's the guy who's going to drive people to the polls or not drive them to the polls. And I find it is going to be very, very difficult for him to create the amount of enthusiasm. I think Michael's right. The thing is about Mitt Romney is he's had no core convictions. It's what we call the vision thing in politics, which, you know, George H.W. Bush never got. Mitt Romney doesn't get it. It's what do we get when we turn out? We know what the left gets when they turn out. They get, you know, because so many people are dependent on the left for their jobs, for their checks, et cetera. There's a lot of things that the left gets that people will turn out for the left. Okay, what do we get? Right. What does the right get?
If this election is going to be about the economy and the size and role of government, as we've been hearing, has Mitt Romney been specific on these things?
I don't think he's been specific on anything unless he's been forced to be specific on it, and that's been a good role that these other candidates and Newt Gingrich are staying in. I don't think, in fact, you would have Mitt Romney right now, you would not know where he stood on Obamacare, save for the other candidates said, I would absolutely repeal it. Now he says he's going to repeal it. The problem is he's repealing the model of which he invented. That's going to be a tough sell.
To your point, Rick, a lot of Americans outside the Republican Party were not paying attention during the primary season. And a big task for Mitt Romney as he runs against the negative Barack Obama is to basically reintroduce himself and make specifics points, particularly when it comes to the tax code and other items.
You're not going to say Etch-a-Sketch, are you?
No, I'm not going to say that at all. But look, we all know this, all joking aside. Every single presidential candidate or nominee that has come forward in the last 20 years has all pivoted slightly to the center to some extent because they recognize
and you can do that, but only as far as your base will let you. If he loses his base, it's over. There's no question.
I absolutely agree with you.
There is no base.
Okay.
There is no
I mean the Republican base, Michael. I don't mean his base.
Yeah, but he doesn't have one. What do you say, pivot? Pivot from what? Pivot implies that you were standing in one place long enough to turn around and pivot. I'm sorry, it's like the ballerina spinning, going, no, that wasn't, no, that, right, no, there is no there. All Mitt Romney has to do is hide. Let the spotlight go on Barack Obama. America, do you want to do this again? We've blown $4 trillion of your grandkids' money we don't have. Did it make a difference? Are we in better shape? Yes or no, up or down, a binary election. If this is a debate about how much you like Mitt Romney, it's already over.
See,
Make it about Barack Obama.
I disagree with you that this is a binary election. It should be a binary election, and it should be a referendum on President Obama's record. The problem is President Obama is a master of message deception, and all he's doing right now is triangulating off of a distorted George W. Bush record, and basically Mitt Romney has got to find a way to stop that bleeding because it in turn is being thrown back on him.
So is the strategy for Mitt Romney to just attack Obama all the time?
No, it is not to attack Obama all the time. It is when you see those openings where Obama has gone over the line, okay, that is when you've got to get in there, hit him back, put him back into place, pivot, turn, and drive the conversation.
Yeah, but what Obama is saying is that, look, we're the party and I'm the leader who's going to get you out of this mess that was created by the people who want to get back into
That's funny because the mess was never that bad under the previous people.
But that is his message. And with any message, you have to say, look, this is where I want the country to go. You have to provide them with a vision. So the country says, yes, that's where I want to go. And then you say, the reason we can't get there is because of the current occupant of the White House, Barack Obama. See, we all want to go to the promised land, whatever that is, and whatever that messaging is. And then you create, and you say, but we can't because this person, Barack Obama, the president, is in the way. If you just move him out of the way, we'll all get to go where we want to go. But their campaign has so far never articulated a vision. I don't know where they're going to bring the country now. I can't articulate.
And I agree with you. And as we move to the general election, and as Mitt Romney tries to reintroduce himself, I think that is going to be one of the.
It's not good enough to be just against Barack Obama.
Exactly.
I don't think that's going to work.
I don't agree. I don't agree at all. In fact, one of Mitt's few strengths in debating is counterpunching, which is good. I personally think the more they attack Mitt Romney, the better, because Mitt Romney will be able to look at the country like Reagan did in 1980 with the there he goes again. This man has been president for 4 years. He has nothing to offer, nothing positive. You know why he's attacking me, Mitt Romney will be able to say? Because I'm like you. I'm a normal person who wants to make more money, have more for my kids, doesn't want to waste our money, doesn't want to keep getting in debt. He's attacking me because I'm like you.
Michael, to what extent is the, shall we say, reticence or reluctance on the part of Rick Santorum, who was one of the leading contenders for the party nomination, the fact that he's not come out and fully endorsed Mitt Romney, what impact is that having?
I don't think it has much. I saw an interesting piece today, I think, at National Review, where the Santorum's people were giving interviews saying they're not going in asking for money from Mitt, they're not holding him hostage or anything like that. They just want to talk about some few fundamental concerns. But I think it really has to do with Ford's theory, that what you need around Mitt is people who actually have a guiding conservative direction. And I think Rick Santorum wants to try to help make sure that during the convention, the platform fights, et cetera, that some of that conservatism stays there. But I don't think it hurts. Once the convention arrives, no one will remember any of this.
Okay, Ford, does Rick Santorum want something in return?
I think he does. He's built up a lot of political capital, and if Mitt Romney does not beat President Obama, he's somebody who can then use that in a future run, maybe in 2016 or for another position, and he really wants to stay in the conversation. And at the same time, when you run a presidential campaign, I've been around, you can't just close it down. Okay, there are some sort of I's you have to dot and T's you have to cross. It does with legality and debt and other items. And I think that Rick Santorum is, in some ways, using this leverage to sort of put himself in a better position come 2016. But Mitt Romney is certainly going to need Rick Santorum as a conduit for social conservatives on the campaign trail. And
Rick, would you also need Rick Santorum to basically close ranks in the party to show that it's not as fragmented as it seems to be?
Yeah, I think Rick can certainly provide that role, and I agree with Ford. Rick has a future if he plays his cards right, and so he's going to try to preserve his political capital so that he can move forward. He does have resonance with the pro-life community, the Christian communities, and he can help Mitt Romney appeal to those people.
Is he the path to the Tea Party?
Not really. Rick was not an initial enthusiastic supporter of the Tea Party like, say, Michelle Bachmann. He sort of came on late. Others, you know, the Tea Party, I think, has been misunderstood and misreported. I mean, most Tea Party, my mom, you know, who was never political, started showing up at Tea Party rallies, and that's when I knew this was a real movement, because, you know, she was not overly political, and all of a sudden she's involved, and that told me something.
Okay, Michael?
Well, the name of my book about the Tea Party was "That's No Angry Mob, That's My Mom,"
right?
Because my mom was showing up in these things too. It really is a character movement. It's about the character of America. We don't want the nation to be a bunch of people expecting you to give them something. A nation where nobody's accountable for their own individual actions. That's why the bailouts were so repulsive to the Tea Party, and that's why I keep coming back to Mitt Romney's fundamental political character is essentially non-existent. He's just a guy who's kind of there, Republican-esque. But President Obama's political character is so strong, and it's such an anathema that is the conduit. People want to vote and say no, telling people they can have whatever they want and some other rich guy will pay for it, and you have no responsibility, and here's a bailout for your college loans, a bailout for your business. That message is so, it drives Tea Partiers crazy, and it will drive them to the polls.
I do agree with you, but one thing that Mitt Romney has to be concerned about is the likability of President Obama. The one thing we can say, look, we all dislike his policies. There's no question about it. But he is a very likable character, and unless Mitt Romney can throw something else out there, that could wind up pushing him, along with big labor, over the top in a very tight election.
And President Obama is a good debater as well.
Absolutely, and that is the one thing that Newt Gingrich brought to the table, is he actually made all of the candidates better debaters.
Okay, I just want to look at one other aspect of this campaign. Let's talk the vice presidential pick, because we're hearing a lot about that right now. There's a number of names that have come up. We've had Marco Rubio, the senator from Florida. We've had Chris Christie, the New Jersey governor, Paul Ryan, the House member from Wisconsin, Mitch Daniels, Rob Portman. Interesting one that was on the Fox website that I saw, Condoleezza Rice, and they say she would be a game changer for them.
It really, you know, to be perfectly honest with you, the vice presidential nominee is not going to be known until about July. And the reason for that is we're in a very tight election, and frankly, we don't know what the atmospherics will be in a few months. And as such, there are several names out there like Condoleezza Rice that could be game changers, but it really just depends on whether or not they've been vetted properly and they can be shown to take up sort of the presidential mantle should Mitt Romney not be there.
I don't think Condoleezza Rice would be a game changer at all. In fact, look, you pick a vice presidential candidate for one reason. Tell me what state they'll bring. Rob Portman, I can tell you, you know, okay, Ohio, I get it. Marco Rubio, okay, I get it. He'll bring Florida. Condoleezza Rice doesn't bring anybody.
I do agree with you, but Nate Silver, the New York Times, has made a very interesting point about VPs just in general nominations. They've not actually helped push you that much. Now, I do agree that for Mitt Romney to win, he cannot lose Florida or Ohio. So that is exactly
all you
why
want is the machines in those states, and the vice presidential candidate can deliver those machines.
Do you want, because it's Condoleezza Rice.
Yeah.
Do you want to take the last 3 enthusiastic Tea Partiers and punch them in the face with a double? This is a woman who's to the left.
Right.
She's to the left of a squish like George W. Bush. Are you kidding me?
It wouldn't be Bush's fault anymore. It would be Condi's fault.
But does she bring
the obvious choice this year?
Right. Does she bring the independents?
Paul Ryan. It's Paul Ryan, because Paul Ryan is going to be in this race no matter what. The Democrats are going to use him to beat up Mitt, because Paul Ryan is the Tea Party example of how leadership is supposed to work. We know we have a problem. Instead of just talking nice and promising to give away money, we're going to find a reasonable way to pay our bills. They're going to beat him up anyway. He's an outstanding, articulate defender of his plan. Let him beat the snot out of the irresponsibility of the Obama administration, adding $1.3 trillion in debt every single year with no plan to change that, because you're going to have to fight it anyway.
Okay. Even after the taxes go up.
Okay,
Remember that part.
Who would be your choice?
I really don't know yet. I mean, I'm really not sold on any one of them, and I really think that they need to be sort of vetted and taken on the campaign trail, particularly in the wake of the Sarah Palin effect. You know, Sarah Palin is a tremendous political talent. She was just extremely raw at the time, and once she got off message, President Obama used it to her advantage. And the one thing the vice presidential nominee has to do is not hurt the eventual, you know, party nominee for president.
Right.
And I do have a lot of respect for Sarah Palin, but it was something that President Obama was good at.
If you were to advise the campaign, who would you say?
I would pick either Portman or Marco Rubio for the reasons I articulated. I love Paul Ryan. I think he's terrific. He has a great future. I hope he doesn't blow it.
Well, and to Rick's point, those would be the top 2 as of right now.
Okay, gentlemen, we're going to have to leave it there. We've run out of time. Michael Graham, Rick Tyler, Ford O'Connell, thanks to all of you for joining us. And that is it from the team here in Washington, D.C. for now. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter and Facebook, where you can find more information about the program. And of course, we want to hear from you. Tell us what stories you think we should be covering. Send your ideas directly to us at insidestory@aljazeera.net. Thanks for watching.